From most parts of Castlemock you can see the place where my love affair with football took hold. Celtic were the first team in Britain to win the European Cup, and I was one of the fans. The nickname for the ground is Paradise, and for a kid like me, that was about right. Well, coming from Glasgow, you're either a Celtic fan or a Rangers fan. I was a massive Celtic fan, and this is what they call Paradise. My dad wasn't happy with me coming to Old Firm games because then, and I think even now, obviously there's a lot of bigotry in Glasgow, and my father didn't want me being part of that. I wasn't allowed to go to an Old Firm game up till I was about 18. When I was younger and I used to come to the games, it wasn't all seating. You know, I used to actually, it was a lot of terracing. My father used to stand away at the back of the terrace and down here, which they call the Rangers end. He used to put me down at the front, tell me to sit in the wall and say, don't move until after the game or I'll wring your neck. And he used to head back in and stand up the back with his mates. And I used to sit and eat my sweets because at 6, 7 year old I didn't really know the game. And then the game would come and collect me and head off, and I mean that was the start, 6, 7 year old, and thereafter I was always a Celtic fan. What's the Celtic's dressing room? I mean, I have to be honest, this is the first team's dressing room. I think our training ground dressing room is far superior than this. Exhibition Cup, 1938. I don't know. I would have liked to have headed that.
Barry Geldart, who was chief scout at the time, came in with a letter, asked me what I wanted to do about it, and we really couldn't afford not to look at anybody at that stage. We weren't blessed with a wealth of talent. We said, get the boy down. And he came to us. I first met him actually in the Billy Miles. We had a club night, and he was there with a glass of Coke in his hand. I thought, being a typical Scotsman, there would be something a little bit stiffer in it. I asked him straight away what was in the glass. He said, oh, just a Coke. And I thought, well, I can't believe that, being a Scotsman, but apparently he is teetotal and still is to this day. So I was a little bit suspicious with Bernie, to say the least, to start with. He came to us on trial. He had a record of being the top scorer in Scotland. He'd won the Golden Boot Award. And I thought, well, you know, why haven't the clubs in Scotland looked at him and taken him there if he had such a good achievement? I went with Barry to Grimsby, and we watched him play, and he hadn't played for about 2 months. He'd been in dispute with his club, Albion Rovers. And it was evident after 10 minutes he was far and above better than anything I had at the club. He was light years ahead of everybody in terms of speed of thought, and he had about 12, 13 goal attempts on the evening. I think we drew 0-0 if I'm right. It's going back a little bit now, but he was an outstanding talent, and it didn't take a genius to suss that out. I remember going back in the car on the night thinking, what if we could get him and tempt Albion Rovers to part with him. A little bit doubtful whether he would come back, as he seemed a little bit homesick when he first came. I rang him back up, said I'd like to have another look at him, and I think Leeds had shown some interest at that particular time. He agreed to come back. We put him up in digs for another couple of nights, and he played the following week against Bradford City, and he scored 2 goals and he made 2 goals, and I think he had a standing ovation from about 50 people that were watching the reserve team match that night, and it was obvious to everybody and sundry that he had something,
Gone in your own mind at the time to try and get this lad signed up before somebody else got in there as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there was 1 or 2 managers that were watching the game, and I said to the night watchman or to the physio to tell the night watchman to lock the gates. I didn't want anybody hanging around outside. I contacted the Albion Rovers chairman at his home, and he wasn't in. He'd gone to the Rangers match that night, and I didn't reach him until I think it was about 12:15. But in the meantime, I'd tried to contact my own chairman. I wanted to sign Bernie that night, and without any delay, because obviously people would have been watching and would have seen the performance the same as I did. And my chairman was away on business, so I contacted one of the directors. I believe it was Steve Gibson, and I said, look, we've got to sign this guy tonight, because if we don't, somebody's going to step in, and we're going to miss out. Would he give me permission to push the deal through? And he said, provided it wasn't over a certain amount, he would put his head on the block and say yes. And I put my own head on the block, because I knew he would prove me right in the long term. I eventually raised the Albion Rovers chairman. I think it was about 12:15. He'd had a few whiskies down him. He'd been to the Rangers match, and he'd had a good night. He said he wanted £60,000. Well, £60,000 to me at that time was the same as saying, well, it was £1.5 million to Middlesbrough. I said it was outrageous. He was in dispute with the club, and I offered him terms. We eventually settled. I think it was £15,000 down and 10 if he played 20 appearances. And there was no doubt that he was going to play 20 games. I was virtually pinching myself at the other end of the phone to say, please say yes. He agreed. We had a gentleman's agreement over the phone, and he said he would send the forms through the next morning. And we quickly signed Bernie up the next day before anybody had an opportunity to contact.
I heard a lot about the famous letters that Bernie wrote out to every club. Eventually, it was your desk that the letter landed on. So what happened from there?
Well, usual procedure from the manager's office is to dump all the letters applying for trials and players writing in for games on the chief scout's desk. And this one just stood out that somebody in the 2nd division in Scotland had scored 31 goals. And I thought, well, maybe 2nd division football in Scotland isn't that good, but really 31 goals is 31 goals. This is the original letter from Bernie, and I believe he wrote to all 1st and 2nd division clubs in England. And it just goes on to really say that he has freedom of contract, and he was keen to sample full-time football in England. And he tells people in it that he scored 31 goals for Albion Rovers. In fact, received, I think it was the silver boot or the golden boot in Scotland for the highest scorer. And the little bits of scribble on there are what any scout would do, really. Just little brief notes on people he's checked with to make sure he's of good character. Even on the back, there's a little bit from John Kelman at Celtic, who says he's very reliable and could go all the way. John Kelman confirmed that he was a good type of lad, good living lad. That's all we need. The funny things that stands out in my mind over Bernie is his boots were shocking. The boots he brought down from Scotland were shocking. I mean, he's going to hate me for saying this, but very unprofessional. The studs were worn, they were tattery, like him, really. And we took him to a well-known sports outfitters in Middlesbrough, who does most of the gear for Middlesbrough Football Club. And he showed Bernie all these boots, ranging from £30 up to £80, the very latest. And Bernie settled, I may be wrong on this, he settled for a pair of Puma Dalglish. I may be wrong, and they were the cheapest boot in the shop. And the proprietor couldn't believe that he was picking these boots as a striker. And he said to Bernie, these are much better, these expensive ones, Bernie, more comfortable, fit you better. And then Bernie said to him, it's not the boot, it's what's inside them that counts, he said. And he said that just off the cuff like that, and I often think how true that's been.
We're there lately. You always told us the early bird catches the worm. How you doing? All right. How you feel? Looking good. It was great to meet my old boss again. And do you know what? He's mellowed.
Last time you and I talked about an aeroplane,
That's right. I did a month.
you went back to Middlesbrough. we went to Bermuda.
That's right.
Unbelievable. How did you miss
I was going to
Bermuda?
ask you
And
about
now
that.
you come to Denmark instead.
So Bruce, when you first took over the reins at Middlesbrough, I have to be honest, I thought my days are numbered as a player, because I knew you as a kid. I used to look at you as a tough tackling midfielder. I was fairly lightweight, couldn't tackle a dinner, and I thought, oh, Bruce will have me off. But amazingly, you didn't. You kept.
Always be Be fair. I mean, be fair. I mean, you have to put up with some players and tolerate them a bit more than others. And I did not tolerate you, for goodness sake. For goodness sake. But no, seriously, you don't get rid of goal scorers. I mean, it's the hardest job in the game. And I'm saying to the boys here in Udens, the most difficult part of the game is to score goals. I mean, we can defend, we can tackle, we can head, we can jump, but putting the ball in the back of the net is the toughest part. And you don't get rid of goals.
I think you used to wind me up to the way. You used to say, you scored a few goals, but you're at home. You always score at home. And I would maybe start to score goals away from home. And then you would say, yeah, but you're a tap-in merchant. You don't score 20-yard shots.
You couldn't see the goal at 20 yards. That's why. Actually, the only thing, if I said that to you, it's because Toddy told me to say it to you, and I'm blaming Toddy. So yeah, no, you don't get rid of a goal scorer. You know a goal scorer. But I think at some stages, I think that was me being a young coach, young manager. I remember the one day at Longlands College, we were there, I think it was on a Friday, Thursday or Friday, and the players, we were in liquidation, and the players were messing around on the training ground at Longlands. And I think I stopped the training, and I basically said, I'm off. And I went home in the car to Birmingham, because I was living in Diggs at the time.
Yeah, you were.
And I went home to Birmingham, and I said I didn't like the attitude of the team on this particular day, and I went home to Birmingham. And then all you guys got together and trained over the weekend together. And when I came back on the Monday, I heard that, and I thought, we've got a spirit here, we've got a team. A good friend of mine said to me probably 3 or 4 months ago, he said, you know, Bruce, when you look back on the team that you have at Borough, he said, not one of those players has ever been in trouble.
Good point.
Good
That's including me.
including you. But a good point, meaning they weren't in trouble on the pitch, really.
That's right.
And they were never in trouble off the pitch. And I think that we had a great group of young players who I could influence at that early stage, and I think they were magnificent.
How would you sum up our relationship?
Our relationship.
Manager, player. I want the truth.
Okay, manager, player. I would say good. I would say, did I get the best out of you? Yeah. Did I cause you some problems? Yes. Did you cause me some problems? Some. Not really. Did you work hard? Yeah. Could you score goals? Yeah. Did you improve? Yes. Do we still have a good relationship? Yes. Have I been good for you? You can answer that question. Have you been good for me? Yes. And I think when you have that with players, if you have that with players, then I think you've been successful with the players.
Obviously, over the years, we've had with highs, had with lows. Well, the last couple of months, I brought out this hardback autobiography, Bruce, and I've actually dedicated it to you.
Oh, you're a gentleman.
So there you go. You can put it in the fire or
No.
put it under the bed if you've got a loose leg.
This is priceless. No. This is priceless. I really appreciate this. This
Yeah.
is really, really priceless. Bernie, I have great memories of you. I don't have any bad memories, ever. You'll have your memories of me, as will the other boys, but we'll still have the great memories of the friendships and of the times that we shared together. And we had some unbelievable
Oh, we did.
good times together. Actually, we had more good times than we had indifferent.
We had no money, but we had some good times.
We had some great times. It's a pleasure to see you.
Cheers.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers. Away from the borough, and one of my greatest achievements was to carry the Republic of Ireland skips around Italy in the World Cup 1990. But seriously, being part of Jack Charlton's squad was a privilege. So how does a Scot from Glasgow end up playing in the green of Ireland? Well, it's not down to owning an Irish setter. Sorry, Jack, the joke doesn't even work now. It's down to that word again, luck. My grandparents were from Ireland. The rest was down to Jack.
I'm nearly sure it was Morris that said to me, there's a Bernie Slavin that's gone to Middlesbrough. You should go and have a look at him. He's scored a few goals and he's not a bad player. So I went and saw you.
What did you think?
I thought you were quite a good player, actually.
But I remember the day you phoned, Bruce Rear called me and says, Jack Charlton phoned you Monday morning. And I got the call and I remember you saying, all right then, give us what's your background?
Yeah.
And I says, Jack, I've got an Irish setter. I've got an Irish setter that went down like a lead balloon. You didn't laugh. I thought, there's me, I've blown it.
Well, I was being serious, you see. You were being
daft.
Thing is, Bernie, did you enjoy the Irish?
Of course I did.
You enjoyed it. I mean, that was part of it. I mean, I was quite lenient with the players at times.
Yeah, I think you were, to a degree.
I mean, we used to go, I can remember on a Monday night we got the pictures.
Yeah.
And we went into Dublin and we went to pictures. And then on the way back, the lads would sing, we love you, Jackie, we do. Remember? We love you, Jackie. And I used to say, okay, we'll stop for a pint. We had some good players. I mean, people like Ronnie Whelan and Mark Lawrenson and Frank Stapleton. We had Packy Bonner in goals. Yeah. We had a very, very good side of 11. It was the other ones that I was short of, the ones that would replace them if anything happened, which is why we went and got you.
You see, the Pope was one of the highlights for me anyway. Why did you take this? I mean, you're non-Catholic, but you took all the lads. Why did you go there?
Really, it was Mick Byrne, you know,
Yeah.
Mick, the trainer. Mick's a very devout Catholic lad, and when we qualified to play in the World Cup, he came to me and he said, our boss, he said, when we get to Rome, you'll get us in to see the Pope, won't you? I said, Mick, if we get to Rome, pal, I'll get you in to see the Pope. Because that was where the final was going to be played, and I didn't think we had a prayer to get into the final. However, we got to play them in the quarterfinal in Rome. And Mick came to see me a couple of days before. And I said, yeah, Mick, it's a bit short notice, but I'll do my best. And I got in touch with Bishop Farquhar from the north of Ireland, and Father Liam Boyle used to travel with us, you know, my Father Liam Boyle. And between them, they got us an audience with the Pope. Met Bishop Farquhar I was playing golf in Sligo. I've just come back from Rome, he said, I've retired. He said, I've just come back. I went out to see John, he said, got to go and see John when I've retired, you see him. He's got to see him first. And he said, and he asked how you were. And I went, you were? He said, yeah, Pope John asked how you were. He said, and how was Mr. Charlton? I said, well. And I went, I was going to go, I don't believe you. And then I thought, well, I can't because he's a bishop, you know.
When I first arrived in Middlesbrough, you played a major part, didn't you? I mean, money was tight at that time.
Yeah, money was very tight. Willie Madden was the manager, as you know, and Willie had responded to the letter that you'd sent in and got you in on trial, and I think you played a couple of games. And I remember meeting Willie in a small gym that we had at Ayson Park, just outside the players' changing room. And I'd meet with Willie a couple of times a week and we'd have a workout, and Willie said, I need some help. He said, the chairman was a guy called Alf Duffield who worked very hard for the club. He said, we've got to take this guy. We've got to get Bernie Slavin into our football club. But I've spoken to the chairman and there's no money. I said, well, the chairman's away. He said, so what you saying? I said, well, chairman's away. And if the chairman's away, he can't make a decision, can he? So let's make the decision between ourselves. And if you're so sure, let's do everything we can to get Bernie to the club. And we ended up, I think the fee was 35 grand.
Are we still paying it?
And a couple of bottles of scotch for your ex-chairman.
Yeah, you like to drink. So that was the story, that's the way it went. So you took full responsibility,
Well,
along with Willie,
yeah, I think Alf was having difficulties in his own business, and he had a lot of financial pressure on him. So I think Willie got the brunt of it. He wasn't very happy when he found out, and Willie got the brunt of it, and then he gave me a bit of a dressing down as well. But I think once he saw you play, he was quite happy with the decision and knew it was the right decision.
After my first season, did you think, no, you spent 25 grand, did you think, well, that's another 25 grand down the Swanee?
I think I felt that every season. No, I think we all knew that even in that first season that it was going to take time for you to adjust to being a full-time professional footballer. And I think everybody who came thought, wow, that lad looks like he can play. And I think once we got the first season, it was a very difficult season for everyone. But I remember speaking to Bruce Rioch, and Bruce thought that providing he could get some discipline into you and teach you the offside rule, you'd be okay.
I never taught me that. Both of us have come through the working class background. Did that help you succeed? You know, as a businessman, it helped me as a footballer. Does it help you? You coming from that background?
Yeah,
Make you tougher?
I think definitely made me tougher. I think I didn't know what I wanted to be in life, and it gives you the university of life, really, being brought up in that working class background. But I was brought up in Pallister Park and Park End, and enjoyed every minute of it. I can't remember ever wanting for anything. I can't remember any hardship, and all I remember is playing football in the winter and cricket in the summer, and enjoying life at school.
I had a great upbringing, and that's down to two people, my man Da. Da was a delivery man for the Co-op, and Ma was a tailoress. They kept me straight and narrow, and Da was a football fanatic. I even gave him a nickname, Jock Steen, after the great Celtic boss. They still live in the same area, and I'm always welcome back. You don't need dogs up here, much of this, you need lions. That was no bad language. Well, a massive thanks to Group Industrial UK Limited for sponsoring my new YouTube channel. And I'd like to thank the people who shaped my footballing career. Celtic were my boyhood heroes. I used to go and watch them, and they were the reason I fell in love with football. You'll see that coming up. Willie Madron, God rest him, he played a massive part. He was the manager at the time of Middlesbrough Football Club, having a difficult time at that during that period. Barry Gilda, he was the chief scout. God rest Barry, he played a part as well. Bruce Reich, he was a strict disciplinarian, somebody that I needed, somebody that would give me a bit up the arse when need be. He motivated me fantastically well. And brought great success to myself and that 86 team. What a team that was, full of local lads. Jack Charlton, he gave me my Republic of Ireland debut against Wales, took me to the World Cup finals in 1990 in Italy, so forever grateful to the late great Jack Charlton. Steve Gibson, obviously still chairman of Middlesbrough, no doubt he'll be there for many, many years. Steve Gibson played a major part in my career because he sanctioned Willie that he was allowed to spend 25 grand for me. The reason being the chairman was on holiday. You'll see the stories coming up. And obviously my mother and father, God rest them, both of them passed away in the last 6-7 years. And I just like to dedicate this wee bit to all the people that's helped me in my career, and obviously my late mother and father.